My name is Thomas Baker. I'm 64 years old, a retired Army colonel, and my daughter Jennifer just called me a war criminal at her wedding. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is watching 150 wedding guests walk past my military portrait. The same portrait that used to hang in our family living room, now plastered at every church entrance with "BLACKLISTED" stamped across my face in blood-red letters. 30 years of military service, 3 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I took shrapnel saving 12 soldiers from an IED blast, lost 40% of my hearing in my left ear, built a $6.4 million security consulting business after retirement. This was my thank you. Jennifer stood at the altar in her grandmother's wedding dress, radiating happiness while my face was displayed like a wanted poster for war crimes I never committed. But here's what Jennifer didn't know as she exchanged vows with her psychiatrist fiancé, Dr. Simon Reeves. Simon Reeves doesn't exist. His real name is Siamak Rezai, Iranian intelligence operative. And for 3 years, he's been systematically turning my daughter into a traitor against the United States of America. In military tactics, we have a principle. To defeat your enemy, sometimes you have to let them think they've already defeated you. Jennifer thought she was exposing her war criminal father. What she was actually doing was walking into the most important counterintelligence operation of my career. This story has more twists than a classified mission in Kandahar, more betrayals than you'll see in any Hollywood thriller. And if you've ever served this country, or if you have family members who've served, you need to hear this. Because what happened to my family is happening to military families across America right now. Sacred Heart Church, 3:15 p.m. The wedding coordinator approached me nervously. "Mr. Baker, I'm so sorry about the situation." The bride's instructions were very specific. "No apology necessary," I told her. "My daughter has every right to express herself." She looked confused. Most fathers would be screaming, threatening lawyers, making scenes. But I've learned patience in places where losing your temper gets people killed. "Will you be staying for the ceremony?" "Wouldn't miss it. I have a wedding gift for the happy couple." The gift was in my jacket pocket, a simple USB drive. But what was stored on that drive would expose an Iranian espionage network, prevent a terrorist attack that would have killed 500 American soldiers, and prove that sometimes the greatest act of love is destroying the person you love most. The question is, when your own daughter becomes an enemy of the state, what do you choose? Family or country? Jennifer wasn't always like this. For most of her life, she was daddy's girl. Honor student, valedictorian, medical school at Johns Hopkins. When people asked me about my proudest achievement, I'd show them her diploma before my Purple Heart. Her mother, Sarah, died of cancer when Jennifer was 16. Breast cancer, stage 4, discovered too late. I was deployed in Helmand Province when Sarah got the diagnosis. Emergency leave took 3 days to process. By the time I got stateside, Sarah had 2 weeks left. That's when something changed in Jennifer. Not immediately. Grief takes time to show its true face. But over the years, I noticed the distance growing, the way she'd flinch when I talked about my deployments, how she'd change the subject when anyone mentioned my service record. "You chose the military over us," she told me once during her sophomore year of college. "You were never really here." Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been absent too much. But someone has to stand the post. Someone has to be willing to go into the dark places so others can sleep safely. I thought she understood that. I thought I was teaching her something about duty and sacrifice. I was wrong about a lot of things. After Sarah's funeral, I tried to compensate. Started Baker Security Consulting in 2010. Figured private sector work would keep me stateside, let me be more present. The company did well. $6.4 million in contracts by 2020. Mostly training corporate security teams and advising government facilities. My military pension added another $2.1 million in guaranteed lifetime benefits. I was building something I could leave to her. Jennifer seemed to appreciate the effort. She'd visit the office, ask questions about the business, even brought Simon around to meet the team when they started dating seriously in 2021. Simon Reeves, psychiatrist specializing in PTSD and veteran mental health. Perfect match for a daughter of a career soldier, right? He asked all the right questions, said all the right things, talked about healing the wounds of service and understanding the military mindset. Too right, as it turned out. The first sign something was off came in early 2022. Jennifer started asking unusual questions during our Sunday dinners. Not the typical "how was work, Dad?" conversations. Specific questions about military protocols, base security procedures, deployment schedules for units I'd worked with. "Just trying to understand your world better," she'd say. "For my research. She was doing a paper for some medical conference about veteran suicide rates," she explained. "Needed to understand operational stress factors, how classified information handling might contribute to psychological pressure. Made sense at the time. Medical professionals need context to help their patients. And Jennifer had always been thorough in her work. But the questions kept coming. More detailed, more specific." "Dad, when you worked with the 82nd Airborne's medical unit, what kind of patient information did they keep on site? How do base commanders typically store deployment schedules? What's the protocol when soldiers report suspicious activity in their family networks?" I started keeping notes. Not because I suspected Jennifer, she was my daughter, for God's sake, but because 30 years in military intelligence teaches you to document patterns that feel wrong. By mid-2023, those notes painted a concerning picture. The relationship with Simon was moving fast. Too fast. Engagement after 18 months. Wedding planning immediately after. They'd found a house in the embassy district, unusual choice for a young couple starting out. Jennifer had opened new bank accounts, started asking about my will, my business succession plans, and the questions about my work never stopped. "Dad, you still have contacts at Fort Bragg, right? I'm working on this veteran outreach program." "What kind of medical records do they keep on active duty personnel?" "Simon's organizing a conference on military mental health. Would you be willing to share some case studies?" Red flags. All of them. But I was a father before I was a soldier, and fathers want to trust their children. Fathers want to believe that love can overcome suspicion. That changed on November 15th, 2023, 11:47 p.m., the call that changed everything. The wedding was held at 127 Stone Ridge Avenue, an elegant venue in the Embassy District. Expensive choice for a young psychiatrist and medical resident, but Simon had family money, according to Jennifer. His parents were international business consultants who couldn't attend due to scheduling conflicts overseas. More red flags I'd ignored. The guest list included 89 people I could identify and verify. The other witnesses were Simon's associates, colleagues from his psychiatric practice, friends from graduate school, members of his Cultural Heritage Society. All of them well-dressed, well-spoken, and strangely interested in my military background. The confrontation began during the reception cocktail hour. Jennifer approached me near the gift table, Simon at her side. She was beautiful in her wedding dress, radiant the way brides should be, but her eyes held something I'd never seen before, cold calculation. "Dad, we need to talk." "Congratulations on a beautiful ceremony," I said. "You look stunning." "The photos," she said, not accepting the compliment. "I hope you understand why they were necessary." "I'm trying to understand a lot of things lately," I replied. "Maybe you could help me." Simon stepped closer. "Mr. Baker, Jennifer's been through a difficult realization process. Therapy has helped her recognize some troubling patterns from her childhood." "Patterns?" Jennifer's voice was steady, rehearsed. "The stories you told us about your deployments, the things you claimed were classified missions. Dad, I know what really happened over there." The reception continued around us. Guests were beginning to stare. The photographer, who'd been notably absent during the photo display setup, was suddenly very interested in our conversation. "What do you think you know?" I asked. "War crimes, Dad. Civilian casualties you covered up. Villages you destroyed without authorization. Simon helped me understand that your PTSD symptoms weren't from being a victim. They were from being a perpetrator." Every word carefully chosen. Every accusation designed for maximum public impact in a room full of witnesses. "And the Purple Heart?" I asked. "Probably fabricated," Simon interjected smoothly. "Military records can be adjusted to protect war criminals from prosecution. It's more common than people realize." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The woman I'd raised, sacrificed for, built a business to provide for. The little girl who used to wear my dog tags and salute when I came home on leave. "Jennifer, where is this coming from?"
From the truth, Dad. From finally having the courage to face what kind of man you really are. She gestured toward the photos at the entrances. These people deserve to know. Simon's colleagues, our friends, our family, they deserve to know they're celebrating with someone who's committed atrocities in the name of American imperialism. The words sounded foreign in her mouth. Not her language, her phrasing. Someone had taught her this speech. "And what do you want from me?" I asked. "Accountability, admission, and distance. After today, I think it's best if we don't have contact for a while, maybe indefinitely." Simon nodded approvingly. "It's a necessary boundary for Jennifer's healing process." I was quiet for a long moment.
Around us, the reception continued. Music, laughter, the clink of champagne glasses, normal wedding sounds for a very abnormal conversation. "I respect your decision," I finally said. "You're an adult. You have every right to choose who you want in your life." Jennifer looked surprised. She'd expected anger, denial, a scene that would further justify her public humiliation campaign. "I do have a wedding gift for you both," I continued, reaching into my jacket pocket. "Something I've been working on for a while now." I handed her a small wrapped box. "Don't open it until after the honeymoon. It's comprehensive." She took the box hesitantly. "What is it?" "Everything you need to know about the truth," I said. "About accountability. About the kind of people you've chosen to surround yourself with." I kissed her forehead, shook Simon's hand, and headed for the exit. But I had one more detail Jennifer had forgotten about. The call had come 3 days after Thanksgiving, 2023. 11:47 p.m., a number I didn't recognize but a voice I'd worked with before. "Colonel Baker, this is Agent Patricia Wells, CIA Counterintelligence. We need to talk." I'd known Patricia during joint operations in Afghanistan. Tough, thorough, and she didn't make social calls at midnight. "What's the situation, Agent Wells?" "We have a problem. Domestic espionage ring targeting military families. We think your daughter might be involved." The world shifted. Not the dramatic movie version where everything goes silent and time stops. Real shock is quieter than that. It's the feeling of pieces clicking into place that you'd been trying not to see. "Evidence?" I asked. "Can you meet tomorrow?" "Secure location. I'll brief you on everything we have." The meeting was at a CIA safe house in Arlington. Wells laid out photographs across a metal table like she was dealing cards. Each one showed Jennifer in locations she'd never mentioned to me. Iranian Cultural Center. 3 visits in October 2023. Private meeting with Dr. Nazari listed as cultural attaché, actually suspected intelligence operative. Bank deposits totaling $127,000 over 18 months. Source unknown. "Your daughter is either a victim of recruitment or an active participant," Wells said. "Her psychiatric boyfriend is definitely the latter." She slid another folder across the table. "Simon Reeves doesn't exist. Real name, Siamak Rezai. Iranian intelligence, trained in long-term psychological manipulation operations." The photos were devastating. Oxford University records showing no Simon Reeves in their psychology program. Facial recognition matching Siamak Rezai to known MOIS operatives. Financial records showing payments from Iranian government sources. "How long have you been tracking this?" I asked. 2 years. The operation is sophisticated. They're targeting children of high-value military personnel. Your daughter isn't the only one they've recruited, but she's the one with the highest access level. Because of me. Because of Baker Security Consulting's government contracts. Because Jennifer had grown up around classified information and military protocols. "What do you need from me?" Wells leaned forward. "We want to offer you a choice. Option 1. We arrest them both now on espionage charges. Problem is we don't have enough evidence for the full network. They'll close up shop, relocate, start over somewhere else. Option 2. You help us build the case. Go undercover. Let them think they're winning while we document everything. It means Jennifer stays free longer, but it also means we catch the whole network." I stared at the photographs. My daughter meeting with foreign intelligence operatives. My daughter accepting money from enemies of the United States. My daughter planning to marry a man whose entire identity was fabricated specifically to manipulate her. "She's still my daughter," I said. "I know. And that's why this will work. They trust you to be the grieving, confused father who doesn't understand what's happening. They have no idea you're capable of strategic thinking beyond your emotional attachment. Classic intelligence mistake. Underestimating the target because of assumed motivations. What's the timeline? The wedding is their exit strategy. Based on intercepts, they're planning to leave for Iran immediately after the honeymoon. Once they're in Iranian territory with diplomatic protection, we lose them forever. And the intelligence they've already gathered? Wells opened another folder. Base security protocols for Fort Bragg and Fort Liberty. Deployment schedules for special operations units. Medical records for over 200 active duty personnel with top secret clearances. And that's just what we can confirm. The scope was staggering. Jennifer hadn't just betrayed me. She'd betrayed every soldier whose information she'd accessed, every mission she'd compromised, every family whose loved ones were now at risk because of intelligence she'd provided to foreign operatives. There's more, Wells said. We have reason to believe they're planning something immediate. Not just information gathering. Active sabotage. What kind of sabotage? We're still investigating, but the timeline suggests they want to complete one major operation before extraction, something that requires the base security information your daughter provided. I thought about the questions Jennifer had been asking. Deployment schedules, medical protocols, security procedures, not just academic research operational intelligence. I'll do it, I said. What do you need? Wells handed me a phone and a small recording device. Authorization is CIA TS 4789. You'll be conducting a counterintelligence operation under federal authority. Everything you record will be admissible in court. Legal protections? Full immunity for any actions taken in the course of the operation. We know this is your daughter, Colonel. We know what we're asking you to sacrifice. I pocketed the recording device. When do we start? You already have. Every conversation from now until the arrests is being monitored and recorded. The wedding is your final opportunity to gather evidence. She gathered up the photographs. Colonel Baker, I want you to know that what you're doing, it's going to save lives. American lives. Soldier lives. I just never thought these lives would be saved by destroying my daughter. Beat 5. Undercover mission. 1080th words. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. Harder than Kandahar, harder than losing Sarah, harder than anything I'd faced in 30 years of military service, because this time I was fighting my own daughter. Agent Wells set up the operational parameters within 72 hours. I would continue normal family interactions with Jennifer and Simon while wearing recording devices and documenting their activities. The CIA would monitor their communications and financial transactions. Our goal was to map their entire network before the wedding day extraction. The hardest part wasn't the technical aspects. Military intelligence had trained me for surveillance, evidence gathering, operational security. The hardest part was pretending I didn't know what I knew. Dad, you seem distant lately, Jennifer said during our Sunday dinner in January. Is everything okay? Just work stress, I replied, cutting my steak and watching her across the table. Big contract coming up with the 82nd Airborne Medical Unit. Security assessment for their new facility. Her eyes brightened with interest. Too much interest. What kind of security assessment? Personnel protocols, information management systems, patient data protection, standard stuff. I watched her process this. Watched her decide how to extract more information without appearing obvious. That sounds important. Are you working with anyone I might know? Any of the doctors I went to school with? Possibly. Why? Just curious. Simon's been working on a research project about military medical facilities. Integration between psychiatric care and general medical treatment for active duty personnel. Every conversation became a chess match. Jennifer probing for information. Me providing just enough truth to maintain her trust while documenting her intelligence gathering attempts. The recording equipment was sophisticated but simple. A device no larger than a pen in my jacket pocket, connected to audio storage that transmitted directly to CIA servers. Every word Jennifer spoke was being analyzed by federal intelligence analysts. In February, Simon started joining our dinners more frequently. Mr. Baker, I'm fascinated by your career, he said one evening. The psychological impact of special operations work must be significant. How did you cope with classified mission stress? Same way most soldiers do. You compartmentalize. Keep operational security. Trust your unit. Operational security,
Simon repeated thoughtfully. That must create interesting family dynamics. How much could you share with Sarah and Jennifer about your work? Leading questions, designed to elicit information about how much classified information my family had access to over the years. Military families learn to live with boundaries, I said. Some things can't be shared. Some things shouldn't be shared. But Jennifer grew up around that environment, Simon pressed. She must have absorbed quite a bit about military procedures just through proximity. I looked at my daughter. She was watching Simon with something that looked like admiration or instruction. Jennifer's always been observant, I said carefully. That night I called Agent Wells from a secure phone. They're accelerating, I reported. Simon's getting more direct about what information Jennifer might have access to. We're seeing the same thing from their communication intercepts. Financial transfers have increased. They're also making arrangements for travel documents under alternative identities. Timeline? Best estimate they'll make their move within 90 days. The wedding date isn't coincidental. It's their extraction deadline. By March, the evidence was overwhelming. The CIA had documented 47 separate instances of Jennifer passing information to Iranian operatives. Financial records showed she'd received $127,000 in payments over 18 months. Simon's real identity as Sia Makarezai had been confirmed through multiple intelligence sources, but the worst revelation came in April. Colonel Baker, Agent Wells said during our weekly briefing, we've identified their target. She handed me a classified report marked Operation Broken Arrow. Fort Liberty. They're planning to use the security information Jennifer provided to conduct an active attack on the base medical facility. Timeline suggests they want to complete this before the wedding extraction. The report detailed a coordinated assault designed to look like a terrorist attack, but actually intended to destroy evidence of Iranian intelligence penetration of U.S. military medical networks. Casualty estimates, 500 soldiers and support personnel. My daughter was planning to help kill 500 American soldiers. What's our countermove? I asked. We let them think the plan is proceeding. Jennifer and Simon believe they're operating undetected. On wedding day, when they attempt final extraction, we arrest them with complete evidence of the planned attack. And the soldiers at Fort Liberty? We'll have security in place. The attack will never happen.
But we need Jennifer and Simon to believe it will, right up until the moment they're in custody. I went home that night and looked at family photos. Jennifer's high school graduation, her medical school ceremony, the day she brought Simon home to meet me. In every photo where Simon appeared, Jennifer was looking at him with trust. Complete, absolute trust. He'd destroyed my daughter's loyalty to her country by exploiting her love for him. He'd turned her into a traitor by convincing her that betraying her father was an act of moral courage. And now she was willing to sacrifice 500 American lives to complete his mission. The next morning, Jennifer called. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay? Have you ever killed innocent people? The question I'd been dreading. The final test to see if I would break operational security and compromise the mission. Jennifer, there are things from my service that I can't discuss. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because some information isn't mine to share. That's not an answer, Dad. It's the only answer I can give you. Silence on the phone. Then, Simon thinks I should cut contact with you until after the wedding. He says you're gaslighting me. That's your choice to make. It is, she said. I'm sorry, Dad, but I can't have a relationship with someone who won't be honest about what they've done. She hung up. 2 months later, she sent me a wedding invitation. The wedding invitation arrived with a handwritten note. Despite everything, I want you to be there. This is important to me. Jennifer. Agent Wells and I met that evening to plan the final phase of the operation. They want you there because they need you there, she explained. Your presence validates Jennifer's narrative. The loving father who refuses to acknowledge his war crimes, finally confronted by his brave daughter's moral awakening. And the extraction plan? Honeymoon flight to Vienna for a medical conference. From Vienna, they'll travel under diplomatic cover to Tehran. Once they're in Iran, they disappear forever. Wells handed me an updated recording device, smaller than the previous equipment. This is your final operation, Colonel. Everything they say at the wedding will be preserved as evidence. Federal prosecutors will use these recordings to build espionage cases against the entire network. What about the attack on Fort Liberty? Prevented. But Jennifer and Simon don't know that. They believe their target is still vulnerable and their mission is proceeding as planned. The week before the wedding, I received an unexpected visitor. "Dad, can we talk?" Jennifer stood at my front door, nervous but determined. She was alone. No Simon. "Of course, come in." We sat in the living room where she'd done homework as a child, where we'd watched movies together during her college breaks, where I'd helped her practice medical school interviews. "I need you to know that the photos at the wedding, it's not about revenge. It's about accountability." I activated the recording device in my pocket. "Tell me what accountability means to you, Jennifer. It means acknowledging the harm you've caused, the families you've destroyed, the people you've killed who were just trying to protect their homes. Which families? Which people?" She paused, and I could see her remembering Simon's coaching. "Dad, you know what you did. The villages in Afghanistan, the cover-ups. Simon helped me understand that your PTSD isn't from trauma, it's from guilt." Simon helped you understand a lot of things, apparently. He's opened my eyes to the truth about American military operations, about what our government does in other countries, about what soldiers like you do to innocent people. The recording device was capturing every word, every accusation, every piece of evidence that Jennifer had been radicalized against her own country. "What else has Simon taught you?" "That healing requires truth, that my medical work can help prevent the kind of psychological damage that creates war criminals, that sometimes you have to cut ties with toxic people, even family." She leaned forward, earnest and convinced. "Dad, Simon's organizing a medical conference in Tehran next month. International cooperation on treating war trauma. Real healing work, not just perpetuating the cycle of violence." Tehran, the extraction destination, presented as a humanitarian mission. "That sounds meaningful," I said carefully. "It is. We're going to help build medical facilities that treat victims of American military operations. Simon says that's how we can balance the karma of what our family has done." Our family. She was including herself in responsibility for my alleged war crimes while simultaneously planning to commit actual treason. "Jennifer, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Have you given anyone information about my work with Baker Security? About the military contracts, the base assessments, the personnel protocols?" She hesitated. The pause lasted too long. "Why would you ask that?" "Because someone has been accessing classified information related to my contracts. Someone with inside knowledge of how military medical facilities operate." I watched her face change. Fear, calculation, then defiant justification. "Dad, if information about American military operations can help prevent civilian casualties, isn't that a moral imperative? Isn't that worth more than your loyalty to a system that creates war criminals?" Complete confession. Recorded confession. Federal prosecutors would play this recording in court to demonstrate her willing participation in espionage activities. What kind of information, Jennifer? Security protocols, personnel schedules, medical records management systems, information that can help international humanitarian organizations understand how to protect civilians from military operations. International humanitarian organizations? Simon's connected to a network of doctors and psychologists working in conflict zones. They need to understand American military medical procedures to protect their own operations. Iranian intelligence operatives described as humanitarian doctors. How much information have you shared? Everything I could access. Dad, 500 soldiers are being treated at facilities where civilians might be in danger. If we can help international organizations understand military medical protocols, we can save innocent lives. 500 soldiers. The exact number targeted in the Fort Liberty attack plan. She was confessing to intelligence gathering while simultaneously revealing knowledge of the planned attack, all framed as humanitarian work. "Jennifer, do you understand what you're telling me? I'm telling you that some of us choose to serve humanity instead of serving a military-industrial complex that profits from war." She stood up, suddenly emotional. "Dad, I know you think I'm betraying you, but I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to save our whole family from the karma of what you've done." By working with Simon's network? By working with people who value human life over nationalist loyalty?
Simon's shown me that love of country can't justify killing innocent people, and if that makes me a traitor to America, then I'm proud to be a traitor. Recorded confession of treason, willing admission of intelligence sharing, knowledge of planned military target.
Everything federal prosecutors needed to build an airtight case. "I love you, Jennifer," I said. "I love you too, Dad. That's why this hurts so much." She kissed my forehead and headed for the door. "I'll see you at the wedding." But she still didn't know what kind of wedding gift I had prepared. 3 days after Jennifer's confession, Agent Wells called an emergency meeting. "Colonel Baker, we have a problem. The Fort Liberty attack isn't hypothetical anymore. It's scheduled for tomorrow." The secure briefing room felt smaller than usual. Wells spread reconnaissance photos across the table, images of the base medical facility, guard rotations, personnel schedules, everything Jennifer had provided to Iranian operatives over 18 months of intelligence gathering. "How do you know?" "NSA intercepted communications between Siamak Rezai and his Tehran handlers. The attack is designed to look like domestic terrorism, but it's actually intended to destroy evidence of Iranian penetration into U.S. military medical networks." She handed me a translated transcript. "Wedding extraction proceeds as planned. Before departure, complete Operation Broken Arrow. Target medical facility contains evidence of network penetration. Eliminate facility and research records. Casualty count irrelevant to mission success." 500 American soldiers were going to die to cover up the fact that Iranian intelligence had been accessing their medical records. What's our response? "Fort Liberty is under lockdown as of 0600 hours. Official story is a training exercise. Unofficial reality is we're preventing a terrorist attack using intelligence your daughter provided." The weight of it hit me like an IED blast. Not just the betrayal. I'd accepted that my daughter was a traitor months ago. But the scope. Jennifer hadn't just sold information. She'd enabled a planned massacre. "There's more," Wells continued. "We've identified 12 other military children in similar situations. Iranian intelligence has been running this operation for 5 years. Your daughter wasn't their first success. 12 families destroyed. 12 young Americans convinced to betray their country by operatives who'd exploited their personal relationships and family conflicts. The wedding is still happening? The wedding is our final chance to arrest Siamak Rezai and Jennifer with complete evidence. If we move too early, Tehran will shut down the entire network and start over in 5 years with different operatives. And if we don't stop them, they disappear into Iran with diplomatic immunity. Jennifer becomes a propaganda asset for Tehran. Siamak Rezai returns to targeting other military families." I stared at the photos of Fort Liberty. Soldiers going about their daily routines, unaware that their lives had been saved by intelligence my daughter had tried to help destroy. "What do you need from me tomorrow?" "Exactly what you've been doing. Play the grieving father. Let Jennifer believe she's winning. When they attempt final extraction after the reception, federal agents will make arrests with complete evidence of espionage and planned terrorism." Wells paused. "Colonel Baker, I want you to understand what happens after tomorrow. Jennifer will be charged under the Espionage Act. Federal prosecutors are looking at life in prison without possibility of parole. There's no plea bargain that brings her home." Life in prison. My daughter, the little girl who used to wear my dog tags, spending the rest of her life in a federal facility. And if I walk away? If I just don't show up tomorrow? The arrests happen anyway. But without the recordings from the wedding, federal prosecutors lose critical evidence. Siamak Rezai might get deported instead of life in prison. The network continues operating. I thought about the other 11 families Wells had mentioned. Other fathers facing the same choice. Other daughters who'd been manipulated into treason by sophisticated intelligence operatives. "There's something else you need to know," Wells said quietly. "We have reason to believe Jennifer wasn't planning to survive the extraction." "What do you mean?" "Iranian intelligence typically eliminates American assets once they're no longer useful, especially assets who know as much as Jennifer knows about their operational methods." She handed me another intercepted communication. "Asset has completed intelligence gathering phase. Extraction includes disposal protocol. No witnesses to network structure can be permitted in Tehran. They were planning to kill my daughter after using her to attack Fort Liberty." Jennifer thought she was escaping to a new life in Iran, working with humanitarian doctors, building medical facilities for war victims. In reality, she was being extracted for execution. She doesn't know? Siamak Rezai has convinced her she's going to be honored as a hero of international humanitarian work. She believes they're planning a future together. I sat in that briefing room for a long time, staring at evidence that my daughter was going to die tomorrow, whether I helped arrest her or not. The difference was whether she'd die as a federal prisoner or as a murdered intelligence asset, and whether 500 American soldiers would die with her. "There's one more thing," Wells said. "The wedding photographer." "What about him?" "There is no wedding photographer. The man with professional camera equipment at the reception is an Iranian operative documenting final intelligence transfer. The photos of you at the wedding entrances weren't Jennifer's idea. They were operational cover for surveillance equipment installation. Every detail of the wedding had been designed for intelligence purposes. The guest list, the venue location in the embassy district, the timing, the public humiliation campaign against me. All of it orchestrated to facilitate final intelligence gathering before extraction and elimination. Colonel Baker, your daughter believes she's marrying a man who loves her and fighting for humanitarian causes. The reality is she's been manipulated by a foreign intelligence service that's planning to kill her after using her to commit mass murder. I thought about Jennifer's confession 3 days earlier, her passionate conviction that she was serving humanity, her pride in being a traitor to America, if that meant saving innocent lives. She had no idea she was the innocent life she needed saving. What happens to her after the arrests? Federal prison, but alive. And over time, with proper deprogramming therapy, she might understand what really happened to her. Might. Psychological manipulation this extensive. Sometimes the damage is permanent. Sometimes people never recover their ability to distinguish between authentic beliefs and implanted ones. I looked at the Fort Liberty photos one more time. Soldiers who would live because my daughter would spend life in prison. "I'll be at the wedding," I said. "Colonel Baker?" "Yes?" "What you're doing tomorrow. It's the hardest thing we can ask any parent to do. I want you to know that everyone involved in this operation understands the sacrifice you're making, but understanding the sacrifice and living with it were two different things." Wedding morning arrived gray and cold. I dressed in my Class A uniform, the same uniform Jennifer had once been proud to see me wear, now evidence of everything she believed was wrong with her father. Agent Wells called it 0800 hours. "Final operational briefing, Colonel. Federal agents are positioned around the venue. The moment Jennifer and Siamak attempt to leave for their extraction flight, arrests will be made. Rules of engagement. Standard federal operation. No violence unless they resist arrest. Priority is preserving evidence and protecting civilian witnesses." I checked the recording device one final time. Everything Jennifer said during the wedding reception would be preserved for federal prosecutors. "Colonel Baker, your daughter still believes she's winning today. Let her keep believing that until the moment she's in custody. The hardest part of any mission is the waiting. I arrived at Sacred Heart Church an hour before the ceremony. The professional quality photos of my face were still displayed at every entrance, marking me as blacklisted for the 150 wedding guests. But now I knew the real purpose of those photos. Surveillance equipment, camera positions, intelligence gathering stations designed to document final operational details before extraction. "Mr. Baker?" I turned to see the wedding coordinator, the same nervous woman who'd apologized about the photo displays during my previous visit. "Yes. The bride asked me to give you this." She handed me a sealed envelope marked Dad in Jennifer's handwriting. Inside was a wedding program and a note. "Dad, I know today is difficult, but I need you to understand that everything I'm doing comes from love. Love for you, love for the people you've hurt, love for the world we can build if we choose peace over war. After today, Simon and I are starting a new life dedicated to healing instead of harming. I hope someday you'll understand." Jennifer. A new life. She still believed Iranian intelligence was offering her a future instead of planning her elimination. I took my assigned seat in the third row, close enough to appear supportive, far enough to avoid disrupting the ceremony if arrests became complicated. The church filled with guests. Jennifer's medical school colleagues,
Simon's psychiatric associates, members of his Cultural Heritage Society, people who believed they were celebrating a wedding between a brave young woman and the man who had helped her recognize her father's war crimes. At exactly 3:15 p.m., the processional music began. Jennifer walked down the aisle in her grandmother's wedding dress, radiant and convinced she was making the most important moral decision of her life. When she passed my row, she smiled at me with genuine affection. The ceremony was traditional, meaningful, beautiful. Vows about love, commitment, honoring each other through all of life's challenges. Jennifer's voice was strong and clear when she promised to support Simon in all his important work. Siamak Rezai still playing the role of doctor.
Simon Reeves promised to cherish and protect Jennifer from all harm. The irony was devastating. During the reception, I watched Iranian intelligence operatives document final details of their extraction operation, while Jennifer mingled with guests, accepting congratulations on her courage in confronting her war criminal father. "Mr. Baker?" A young man with professional camera equipment approached me, the wedding photographer who wasn't actually a wedding photographer. "I'm documenting today's celebration. Would you mind if I asked about your military service? Jennifer mentioned you have some interesting stories from overseas." Final intelligence probe, attempting to gather last-minute information about my security clearances and current government contracts. "I'm retired," I said simply. "Of course, but your consulting work must keep you connected to military operations." "Some connections." He smiled and moved closer with his camera. "For the record, then, do you have any regrets about your service?" The question was designed to elicit admissions that could be used in Iranian propaganda. My recorded confession of war crimes played alongside footage of my daughter's wedding day moral victory. "I have many regrets," I said, looking directly into his camera, "but betraying my country will never be one of them." His smile faltered slightly. At 6:30 p.m., Jennifer and Simon made their excuses to leave for the airport, honeymoon flight to Vienna, then Tehran. Their extraction timeline was proceeding perfectly, but they didn't know federal agents were waiting outside. "Thank you all for celebrating with us," Jennifer announced to the reception guests. "Simon and I are heading to the airport for our honeymoon, but please stay and enjoy the party." She approached my table, Simon beside her. "Dad, I'm glad you were here today. Despite everything, I love you." "I love you too, Jennifer." She hugged me, and for a moment, she felt like my little girl again. Not a foreign intelligence asset, not a traitor planning mass murder, just my daughter on her wedding day. "The gift you gave us," Simon said. "We'll open it in Vienna?" "Vienna would be perfect," I replied. They walked toward the exit together, Jennifer in her wedding dress carrying a bouquet of white roses, Simon in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, checking his watch to ensure they'd meet their extraction flight. 150 wedding guests watched them leave, believing they were witnessing the start of a beautiful marriage. I followed at a distance, along with other guests who wanted to see the newlyweds off. Outside Sacred Heart Church, a black sedan waited at the curb. Not a wedding limousine, an extraction vehicle. As Jennifer and Simon approached the car, Simon's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, frowned, then looked around the parking area with sudden alertness. "Jennifer, get in the car. Now." "What's wrong?" "Change of plans, we need to leave immediately." But it was too late. "FBI, Jennifer Baker Reeves, Simon Reeves, you're both under arrest." Federal agents emerged from concealment positions around the church grounds. Tactical teams, weapons drawn, moving with practiced precision. Jennifer's face went blank with shock. "Dad, what's happening?" Siamak Rezai reached for something inside his jacket. "Hands visible! Now!" He complied, but I could see him calculating escape routes, looking for diplomatic vehicles, searching for Iranian embassy personnel who should have been providing extraction support. "Jennifer Baker Reeves, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit espionage, providing material support to foreign intelligence services, and conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism against the United States." "Terrorism?" Jennifer's voice was high, panicked. "No, you don't understand. I was working with humanitarian organizations, medical research. I was trying to help people." Agent Wells stepped forward with handcuffs. "Siamak Rezai, you're under arrest for espionage, conspiracy to commit terrorism, and operating as an unregistered foreign agent." "My name is Simon Reeves," he said calmly. "I'm an American citizen. This is harassment based on ethnic profiling. Your real name is Sayamak Rezai. You're an operative of Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security. You entered the United States on fraudulent documents with the mission of recruiting American intelligence assets. Jennifer turned to look at him, confusion replacing shock. Simon? What are they talking about? Your name is Simon Reeves. You're a psychiatrist from Philadelphia. Jennifer, don't say anything. This is a misunderstanding that our lawyers will resolve. But Jennifer was staring at him like she was seeing a stranger. Simon? Is your real name Sayamak? He didn't answer. Agent Wells continued reading charges. Jennifer Baker Reeves, you're also charged with conspiracy to commit mass murder in connection with planned attacks on Fort Liberty medical facilities. Mass murder? What? No, Jennifer's voice cracked. I was providing medical research information, humanitarian organizations. Simon said we were helping prevent civilian casualties. The information you provided was used to plan an attack that would have killed 500 American soldiers. Jennifer looked at Simon again. Tell them that's not true. Tell them we were working with doctors and humanitarian groups. Simon's silence spoke louder than any confession. Tell them, Jennifer screamed. Wedding guests had gathered around the arrest scene, watching in stunned silence as the bride and groom were handcuffed and placed in federal custody. Jennifer, I said, approaching her as agents prepared to transport her. She turned to me with tears streaming down her face. Dad, I don't understand what's happening. Simon said we were helping people. He said the medical information would save lives. Jennifer, I need you to listen to me. Simon is an Iranian intelligence operative. He's been lying to you for 3 years. Everything he told you about humanitarian work was cover for espionage operations. That's not possible. He loves me. We're married. We're going to build medical facilities and help war victims. The Iranians were planning to kill you once you reached Tehran, I said gently. They don't let American assets survive once they've served their purpose. She stared at me, then at Simon, then back at me. You're lying. This is about your war crimes. You're trying to make me look like the criminal to protect yourself. Even with handcuffs on, even with federal agents surrounding her, even with the evidence of Simon's true identity, Jennifer couldn't accept that she'd been manipulated. Dad, how could you do this to me?
How could you have your own daughter arrested on her wedding day? Agent Wells opened the transport vehicle door. Jennifer, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. As they loaded her into the federal transport, Jennifer looked back at me one final time. I will never forgive you for this. But forgiveness wasn't what I was hoping for anymore. The federal courthouse in Alexandria was cold and institutional. Nothing like the elegant church where Jennifer had gotten married 6 hours earlier. Agent Wells found me in the witness waiting room. Colonel Baker, the arrests are complete. Jennifer and Sayamak are in federal custody pending arraignment tomorrow morning. The evidence? Overwhelming. The recordings you gathered, combined with NSA intercepts and financial records, give prosecutors everything they need. Both defendants are looking at life sentences under the Espionage Act.
I pulled the USB drive from my jacket pocket, the same drive I'd given Jennifer as a wedding gift. What's on this? Wells connected it to a secure laptop. Files began populating the screen. 6 months of surveillance footage from Baker Security Consulting. Audio recordings of every conversation with Jennifer and Simon. Financial records showing the Iranian money transfers. Communication intercepts proving Sayamak's real identity. And evidence that Jennifer was recruited gradually, manipulated over time. Proof that she believed she was working with humanitarian organizations, not foreign intelligence. Wells looked at me carefully. Colonel Baker, this evidence could support a defense argument that Jennifer was a victim of sophisticated psychological manipulation rather than a willing espionage asset. I'd spent months documenting not just my daughter's treason, but the methods used to create that treason. Every conversation showing how Simon had exploited her abandonment issues, her grief over her mother's death, her resentment about my military deployments. It could reduce her sentence? Substantially. Instead of life without parole, she might be looking at 15 to 20 years. With good behavior and successful deprogramming therapy, she could be home before she's 50. The gift I'd prepared for Jennifer wasn't just evidence of her crimes. It was also evidence of her victimization. There's something else, Wells continued. The planned attack on Fort Liberty. The recording device captured Jennifer's genuine shock when she learned about the mass casualties. Her reaction suggests she really believed she was providing medical research information, not intelligence for a terrorist attack. I watched the surveillance footage on the laptop screen. Jennifer at family dinners, asking questions about my work. Her face showing confusion when Simon pushed for more detailed information. Her visible discomfort when he discussed accountability for American war crimes. She was being radicalized, I said. Textbook psychological manipulation, isolation from family support systems, gradual introduction to anti-American ideology, exploitation of personal trauma to create emotional dependency. Wells closed the laptop. Colonel Baker, federal prosecutors will offer Jennifer a plea agreement, cooperation with ongoing investigation of Iranian intelligence networks in exchange for reduced charges. If she accepts, she'll serve her sentence in a minimum security facility with access to psychological rehabilitation programs. And if she doesn't accept? Life in federal maximum security. No possibility of parole. I thought about Jennifer's last words to me. I will never forgive you for this. But maybe forgiveness wasn't the goal. Maybe the goal was giving her a chance to understand what had really happened to her. A chance to distinguish between authentic beliefs and implanted ones. A chance to recognize that love and manipulation aren't the same thing. Will you recommend the plea agreement? I asked. Based on the evidence you provided, yes. Jennifer Baker Reeves was a victim who became a perpetrator. The justice system should reflect that distinction. Wells handed me the USB drive. This is your wedding gift to your daughter, Colonel. Not just evidence of what she did, but evidence of why she did it. It might be the difference between losing her forever and getting her back someday. I pocketed the drive. What happens now? Now we work on dismantling the network that created this situation, and we hope that other military families won't have to face the choice you faced. But some choices change you permanently, regardless of their necessity. 2 years later, I opened the Veterans Anti-Recruitment Center in downtown Richmond. Not the retirement I'd planned, but the mission I'd discovered. Jennifer took the plea agreement. 15 years in federal prison, eligible for parole in 10 with good behavior. She's at a minimum security facility in Pennsylvania, participating in deprogramming therapy designed to help victims of long-term psychological manipulation. She hasn't spoken to me since the wedding day arrests, but her therapist says that's normal for victims of this type of operation. The shame isn't just about the crimes they committed, it's about realizing how completely they'd been manipulated. The center works with FBI counterintelligence to educate military families about foreign recruitment tactics. We've identified warning signs, adult children asking unusual questions about classified work, new romantic relationships with foreign nationals who show excessive interest in military procedures, sudden ideological shifts toward anti-American positions. 43 families have come through our program so far. 11 of them caught recruitment operations before significant intelligence was compromised. The others are learning to rebuild relationships damaged by espionage prosecutions. Mr. Baker? A young woman entered the center's main office. My name is Sarah Chen. My father was a Marine Corps intelligence analyst. 6 months ago, my brother was arrested for selling base security protocols to Chinese operatives. Another family, another daughter trying to understand how someone she loved could betray everything they'd been raised to protect. How can we help? I asked. I think my brother's girlfriend might be targeting me now. She's been asking questions about my father's work, about family finances. She says she's researching military family stress factors for her psychology dissertation. The same pattern. The same exploitation tactics. Foreign intelligence services adapting their methods, but not changing their fundamental approach. Have you documented these conversations? That's why I'm here. I need to know how to protect my family without destroying it. I handed her the intake forms we'd developed with FBI consultation. Sarah, what you're doing takes courage, but courage is what military families do best. After she left, I called Agent Wells. We have another active case, I reported. Chinese intelligence this time. Same psychological manipulation tactics. Different operational objectives. Resources available? Full federal support. And Colonel Baker? The deprogramming therapy program is showing promising results. 3 assets have successfully completed treatment and provided actionable intelligence on foreign recruitment networks. Maybe Jennifer would be one of them someday. If you notice unusual interest in military service within your family, Share this story. Protect our veterans. Protect our children. Some battles are fought on foreign soil. Others are fought in living rooms and wedding chapels. Both kinds of battles require soldiers who understand the cost of victory